Hello and welcome to The Big Picture. Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh's last official meeting with US President Barack Obama is expected to start any time now. The meeting, which has many items on the agenda on both sides, is seen in the context of the major changes in the relationship between the two countries in the last few years. However, even as a lot of expectations were raised about the meeting and its outcome, a bombshell in the form of a sharp statement by Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi in Delhi this afternoon seems to have cast a shadow on the meeting in Washington. Rahul Gandhi's statement questioning the ordinance promulgated by the government but yet to be signed by the president to protect the convicted MPs and MLAs is being seen as a serious credibility crisis for the government. It also reflects the serious differences between the ruling party and its government. In this context, what will be the impact of the statement on the Obama PM meeting is something which needs an answer. Also, how the Americans will look at this entire controversy and what may be the outcome of the meeting also needs to be looked into. We will discuss all this today with an eminent panel of guests. I have with me G. Parthasarathy, former ambassador, Dr. G. Balachandran, consultant fellow, Institute of Defense Studies and Analyses, Mohan Guruswamy, an economist and visiting fellow at Observer Research Foundation, Pramit Chaudhary, Foreign Affairs Editor at the Hindustan Times, and on the phone line from Washington, D.C. is Chidu Rajghatta, Foreign Editor and US Correspondent for the Times of India. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Parthasarathy, I would like to come to you first. You know, how seriously are the domestic crisis when some head of the government is abroad, is in a foreign country like our Prime Minister is in right now, and a domestic crisis crops up when he is there? How does it affect the meetings? And in the present context, will the Americans take whatever has happened in this afternoon seriously?
Yes, the Americans are very sensitive to political developments in India. It may interest you to know that after having kept away from Mr. Modi, they've given him an official invitation from the Council of Foreign Relations as soon as he became a prime ministerial candidate. So they do keep a very close watch on domestic developments. As it is, talking to my American friends, this was seen as a weak, lame duck government on its way to the elections. Therefore, the White House has not put out any grandiose reception, but described it as, quote unquote, a short working visit.
Official meeting?
No,
working visit.
Short working visit is the White House briefing description. Now, quite obviously, the Prime Minister, to his credit, has achievements like the nuclear deal, which I think was path-breaking despite all the criticism. Now, what is astonishing to me is that when you have the Prime Minister of India on a visit to a superpower and thereafter to the UN, a young leader of the party, albeit its vice president, should use such intemperate language on an ordinance approved by the Union Cabinet.
Right.
Because this is a thing which is not only going to send ripples through the government ruling establishment, but also partners. I mean, what would Mr. Sharad Pawar think of a young man in his 40s calling a legislation he has approved as nonsense? So I think these will be issues very carefully studied by the Americans. They will arrive at their own conclusions. They will give him due courtesy. But their earlier conclusion that they are dealing with a lame duck government will be strengthened.
Chidanand Rajghatta, Chidu, you think that, do you agree with Ambassador Parthasarathy? And you know, what is it that has happened in the last couple of hours since this statement was made here? What is the kind of atmosphere which prevails there?
I think it's important to remember that this is an engagement between the Republic of India and the government of the United States,
right.
Not a meeting between Manmohan Singh and the Congress Party or UK government and Mr. Obama and the Democratic Party. So in that sense, I think they'll at least pretend that it's business as usual. And we also have to remember there have been occasions when leaders of both countries have visited each other when they have been weak or at the tail end of their term, as President Clinton did when he came to India towards the very end of his term.
Right.
So in that sense, it's business as usual. But having said that, I think this comes as a tremendous blow to the Prime Minister. It really broke like a thunderclap over DC this morning. It's still very early. Just about 8 now. But it definitely undermines his position We haven't heard any reaction. The Prime Minister is busy preparing for his meeting, I guess. We haven't heard anything from the Prime Minister's office or from his aides so far. But, it's on social media, there's a great deal of chat, and a former advisor to the Prime Minister has actually suggested that he should finish today's engagement and actually return home and resign.
Exactly.
That would be an extreme step. But I think the Prime Minister, to put it charitably, is made of sterner stuff. He'll probably go through with this whole thing, and they'll say, I expect them to say that this whole ordinance will be reconsidered now that there have been voices of dissent within the party. But definitely it undermines his position, both in the eyes of the United States and the international community. He goes to New York next. But these things happen. For instance, Nawaz Sharif is in New York not exactly as a very strong leader.
Right.
And Obama himself, there's so much debate about the government shutting down on Monday and Tuesday. So these are things that I think leaders learn to negotiate. And on the foreign policy front, they just go ahead with business as usual.
So whatever is there on the table for the meeting today, you don't think there'll be any disturbance as far as those issues are concerned, and whatever needs to be finalized and signed or whatever it is?
No, I don't expect any change. But the fact is the United States has, the Obama administration has some appreciation of the difficulties that the government has had in carrying through various commitments it's made, including whether it's on the nuclear deal or foreign investment. And there's a lot of analysts who have said that we can't expect much from this government in the remaining months leading up to the general election. So that sense is already pervaded through the government that this is indeed a lame duck government, and in fact, whatever they do or manage to do is a kind of bonus. As far as today's agenda is concerned, I think whatever's on the table, and a lot of things are still being negotiated, a lot of sort of dotting the I's and crossing T's is still happening till this very moment. For instance, the early pre-works agreement, as they call it, it's still being talked about right until the last moment. So whatever is on the table will be discussed.
Okay, Mohan. Mohan, I need you to briefly, give your opinion about what has happened here in India and how it's going to have an impact on that. But as far as the major agenda as for this meeting is concerned, how is it going to,
I think the important thing to remember and not to forget is that he is still the Prime Minister of India. He still represents the country in the United States, and he's talking to the President of the United States as Prime Minister of India. So, he speaks with that full authority. Okay, I don't think, when Obama came to India, he took the worst shellacking a president got in midterms. And he came here when they lost control of Congress, lost control of Senate, everything. Yet he went through, and he's made some historical decisions out here. So, this part, the working part of the business, I don't think will get substantially altered by changed political circumstances. But I think what's happened in India is worrisome in the sense that, it was a decision taken by the party, by the government, by everybody concerned.
Apparently, it looks apparently the party was not a party to the decision.
It looks like that now.
Yes.
And, well, as Partha said, there could have been more temperate language, but he's a young man, But I think politically, I think it's very astute. He has distanced himself from the elements of the government, which he's not comfortable with. He's pulled himself away and he's put himself in the center stage.
We will, anyway, this is a separate debate. I think we'll need to discuss that. But you please tell me, what are, as far as the economic issues are concerned, which are on the table for the meeting today, how much of them are achievable? What is it that the US wants from India, or India wants from the US?
I think the big issue, of course, is the nuclear liability bill.
Yes.
And to some extent, we've had a clarification from the Attorney General that the operator can have his own set of liabilities.
Right.
And if the operator is the nuclear power corporation,
yes,
or a private corporation,
yes,
like GE or Westinghouse or the Russian company Rosatom or whatever, they can have their own liability agreements with the supplier. It means that they pick up
some preliminary agreement with Westinghouse is expected.
I think it's expected, one. Two, there would be some more announcements on loosening up of the foreign direct investment regime.
Okay.
telemarketers and the internet marketers want to come. And I think they're already in here. Amazon is already in here in a manner of sorts. So they will all come in here in a bigger way. So I think, there is traction there. And I personally think that there is something offing in the defense sphere. I've had this inkling from different sources at different times that something major is going to be announced there, like, it could relate to submarines or something, but something is on its way.
Okay, let's get Dr. Balachandran in on this. Dr. Balachandran?
Yes.
Dr. Balachandran, do you see any major, Mohan Guruswamy and Mohan Guruswamy feels that there's something major happening on the defense front and also on the nuclear front. Yeah, I mean, last week when we discussed about the nuclear issue, you were also there on this show, and we discussed quite a bit about how the government was trying to create some kind of a window as far as the liability is concerned, nuclear liability is concerned. You think they have been able to sort that out, and will they be able to sign this preliminary agreement as far as Westinghouse is concerned?
No, the early works agreement, there's no problem. But, people have misread the Attorney General's clarification. His response was only in respect of the Russian agreement because we have an intergovernmental agreement. And he was explicit in his reply saying that this does not apply to other suppliers.
Right.
So what he said about the NPCL being free to renounce the right of recourse applies only to Russia. It does not apply to other countries.
Okay.
But as he said, this is a legal, interpretation. Politically, it will be difficult. So I don't expect any major change in the nuclear front.
Okay.
As far as the defense goes,
Yes.
here again, the problem is with the rupee depreciation, with the very little money available for signing new contracts, it's very difficult to negotiate a new major contract which will require upfront a lot of money. In fact, I suspect this year it will be very difficult for the Defense Ministry and the services to pay for and order anything new with the money they already have. So they might make some noises on the defense front, but I do not expect any major agreement that already has been announced by the US Department of Defense in its notification to the Congress on the FMS sales. I do not expect new. Thirdly, please understand,
Yes.
it's like a half empty, half full glass. We are not going to have another major agreement like the nuclear deal. That's out of the question. And we have already signed so many agreements with the United States.
Yes.
I cannot see any new subject that they can sign unless it's how to protect cows or how to milk cows. So all that is going to happen is, as Dr. Guruswamy said, they might make a one or two stations here, but I think it is perhaps more of a stock taking and to see how they can move forward, because there are a lot of issues on which there has been very little progress, at least from the public domain. We have got the question of totalization. I don't see what has happened there. There's a question of the immigration H1 bill. We don't know what has happened to that. Of course, the liability bill is there. Then there is the free trade agreement and the investment agreement. That is the Montreal Protocol. Right. There seems to be a lot of, but only good thing is this. While from the Indian side there seems to be a little bit apprehension, uncertainty about what our relations should be with the United States. In the United States, notwithstanding the standoff between the Democratic and the Democratic President and the Republican Congress, at least as far as relationship with India is concerned, I don't think there's much disagreement both these sides. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
So I don't see any major thing coming out. There will be some good things, and anyway it is not a state visit, it is a working visit. As working visits goes, they may talk and say, let's further do this. So I think it won't be a bad visit, but let's not expect any major things either.
Okay. Pramit? Pramit, what do you think of the of what will be the outcomes of it, and also if you would like to say anything on the kind of impact the domestic problem would have on the Prime Minister and his bargaining ability or whatever?
Well, I think the two issues. One is you've mentioned, as has been mentioned by others, the agenda was already very thin. I mean, on the nuclear side, it was being the original plans for some sort of a major contract were kept being diluted. Eventually it was an early works, now it's a pre-early works. It's a $15 million contract that doesn't really signify very much. And the nuclear liability issue is still open. I mean, I don't think any American corporation, definitely not Westinghouse's lawyers, will be particularly happy or with what's so far been done on that front. On the military front, they were desperately trying to come through with a major contract, the M777 howitzer, and we probably will sign an MOU on the Chinook or maybe order some more C-17s or C-130s.
Right.
But all of these will be MOUs, as Dr. Balachandran correctly pointed out. We don't have any money. So we will sign an MOU on these fronts, but these are really symbolic acts. I don't expect, therefore, very much happening on almost any other front. Climate change, something Obama is very interested in. There was no agreement within the Indian government about CFC, HCFC ban. So we will just have secretary-level talks on the environment with an agenda that will be determined later. So all of this put together is very little was in the basket anyway. It was really a sort of goodbye state visit. Obama is known to actually like Singh as an individual.
Right.
He likes his style. But accepts that Singh has lost the political authority to come through with almost anything he's been promising for the past few years. So what Rahul Gandhi has done has reinforced that sense of a prime minister who doesn't have any genuine political clout left. But ultimately, it's it adds a little bit to what is already a pretty clear situation of a prime minister who is struggling to be able to impose his will on almost anything.
Okay, Chidu, I'm sure you need to go. Before you go, I just wanted to want you to tell us. See, one of the things which were being written about and spoken about before the PM left for US about what is happening in the US is about the US business and industry having several problems with India about its protectionism and IPR and things like that. Are these issues going to be discussed? Do you think there'll be any forward movement on this? Chidu, can you hear me? Okay, I think there's some problem there. It's the same question to you, Mr. Parthasarathy.
Well, look, I think I'll go along with Pramit.
Yes.
One caveat on defense deals.
Yes.
I'm afraid, firstly, we don't have the money, so it's going to be an MOU. You're not even able to buy the Rafale aircraft which you signed.
No, but there is this talk, this $640 million Hercules C.
That's all for the future. It's for the future.
Okay.
More importantly, Ashton Carter had really serious ideas about transfer of defense technology.
Yes.
Now, you can't have that unless the Americans follow what they do with Japan and Korea, which means a large FDI portion in the foreign investment, which goes into also research and development.
Right.
Now, unfortunately for us, as long as the ordnance factories, which are
But we have increased the FDI in defense, or at least that's what we were
nobody is
told.
going to come in with that sort of FDI because they get much better deals in Europe. They get much better deals even in Turkey.
Right.
So why should they come here? So we must realize we're living in a competitive atmosphere. What we need is technology. And for technology transfers, you will have to be very clear about what's the international practices.
Right.
I know for a fact that a large number of those companies, high-tech, aerospace, are willing to come in because we have aerospace progress here, scientists here. We should build on that. All the others is just talk. It's a visit. I go along with Chidu. Obama holds Manmohan Singh in very high regard.
Right.
He refused to listen to the British on Kashmir, and he's been very grateful to him on G20. So he's being nice to a man, a political leader, who unfortunately is not receiving the treatment from his own political party within India.
Okay. Mohan, one of the issues which we are told would come up in the talks is between the Prime Minister and the President is about Afghanistan and Pakistan and things like that. Where does India stand? Where does US stand on this? And what is the kind of message which the Indian Prime Minister would like to give to the US President?
Well, you see, the US would like India to get involved somehow. I don't see any room for India to get involved. in Afghanistan after their withdrawal. There is this country called Pakistan lying in between.
Mohan, 1 second. I think Dr. Balachandran wants to react to what Mr. Parthasarathy said. Yes, Mr. Balachandran, quickly.
Look, it's not, defense technology is not something like buying a car or something like that. The US on defense transfers have very strict laws. We have not even been able to agree to sign COMSEC, AFSA or any of those agreements. And to think that they will somehow cooperate with India on defense technologies and India will continue to say, look, I will not do this and I will not do sign of the agreements that for confidentiality, secrecy, all those things are necessary. I do not see great prospect. I see, yes, certain degree of cooperation between DRDO, defense technologies, and the US laboratories. But to see major, look, we have not yet signed COMSEC. We said we will not sign it. AXA, we said we will not do that. And we had the what was it called, the third agreement on logistic and geospatial agreement, we said we will not sign it. We are known for saying, I will not sign this, I will not sign that, I will not agree to that. So to expect that they will give the frontline technologies to India, and not only that, cooperate with India on frontline technologies, is a little bit far-fetched at this moment.
Okay, yes, Mohan.
I think on this question of money, when we signed deals 5 years ago, GDP was growing at 10%, but the defense budget was much smaller.
Yes.
You see, growth has nothing to do with the money available. A certain amount of money is kept for defense in the budget, and that money is available. The Rafale deal is being delayed, not for budgetary reasons, but the way the French have inserted all kinds of clauses and hiked up the prices. Okay. Now, as far as technologies are concerned, when this MRCA deal was open, the US offered a frontline fighter with the technologies.
Right.
Okay. And Obama, when he was here, he said in Parliament that there are restrictive laws in the United States which I recognize
Right.
are impedances to better relations between our two countries, better cooperation. And I'm going to address these issues.
These technology denial
regimes which they have, which is all passed by Congress, that you come and get certified, etc. He said, I know you can't do that with India. And therefore, he has tried through Ashton Carter to get this whole concept of joint ventures through. Now, there are one or two successful joint ventures in India, between Russians and India on BrahMos and other things. So they're examining those methods of coming in here as a joint venture. Now, Partha is right, for 26% shareholding, you're not going to come in. So you've got to give 49, 50, thereabout. A joint venture, a partnership.
Right.
So you've got to do that. And I think the government is thinking about it, and we'll have to act on it, because at this rate we're going, at the rate at which geopolitics in the region is shaping up, we can't keep buying arms forever. At some stage you've got to start making them, and you get some economic value additions domestically.
These are all fine, we have to make, but when will we start? And
I don't think with this government it's possible.
Anyway, this is the last leg of this government. In any case, we can't expect.
I think the path will be set.
I think Ashton Carter, we've discussed it with him, has genuinely made an effort. We've been talking to him for about 10 years.
Okay.
When Prime Minister Vajpayee first took over, in his first meeting at the BJP convention, he said that we see government as a continuum, not regime changes has nothing to do with policies adopted.
Okay, Pramit,
Yes.
last quickly, do you see anything which like we have been hearing in the last couple of days, that the Prime Minister will make a strong pitch as far as Pakistan is concerned, and the terrorism and issues like that? Do you see anything serious happening on that front?
No, this is a symbolic meeting. Sharif had already indicated even before he was elected, and continued to do so after he's elected, I don't control the India policy, I don't control the Afghan policy, I don't control the US, and I don't control nuclear policy in Pakistan. The army does that, and I'm not taking on the army right now. I've tried it before. I got manacled and thrown out of office and then exiled. So don't expect me to go down that path. But Manmohan Singh wants to have at least try to normalize the meetings between himself and the Indian and Pakistani prime ministers. But the agenda is even thinner than the one with Obama. So it'll be a symbolic photo op, unfortunate. And yes, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh will complain about terrorism, he will complain about LOC incidents, he has to do that politically. But he knows he'll be talking to a Prime Minister who will smile at him and say, I have nothing I can do about that. But Sharif will condemn these incidents because he has absolutely no say about regarding whether they happen or don't happen.
Okay.
On the other hand, it would be extremely silly for him not to meet Sharif. They're going to be in the same building. To have a cup of tea, there's no big deal.
any case,
I think they will meet.
I think they will meet.
But we should have no great.
Yes, Mr. Balachandran, sorry.
And one
Quickly,
thing, he'll be grateful to Prime Minister Manmohan Singh for not cancelling his visit or talk with Obama like the President of Brazil did because
Exactly. I was coming to that, Mr.
Notwithstanding certain sections of the Indian media being vociferously saying the Prime Minister should do that.
Exactly.
So I think he'll be grateful to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Parthasarathy, that's what I want you to, very quickly, the NSA, all those, things which have come out about how we have been bugged, the UN office, you think this is something which at a government to government level, at the
Let
PM
me narrate
level,
you a simple incident.
Yes.
During Kargil, we played the conversation we had bugged of General Musharraf talking to General Aziz.
Exactly.
We do it, everybody does it. This is hypocrisy. To say, they've got better technology, they do a better job of it.
But
so everybody's spies.
The Brazilian
do a better job of it.
The Brazilian president cancelled her visit to US. So, India should also learn from that.
This is all nonsense. I mean, let's be real. We spy, everybody spies. Listen, when I was in the Soviet Union, after the signing of the Indo-Soviet Treaty, we threw out 5 Soviet diplomats for spying. So these things happen, it's a part of life, you live with it. And for God's sake, make your own facilities better.
And RAW officials were kicked out of Washington.
Okay.
For doing all
I
kinds
think,
of things.
so, Mr. Balachandran, this whole spying business, the NSA business, you don't think that will have any impact on the talks or on the relations between India and US?
Look, what they have done is they have collected material on their territory.
Yes.
They have not, the point I do not know what people are saying. Even the President of Brazil saying illegal under international law. I don't know which law she is talking about.
Okay, sir. On that note, we need to end. We're completely run out of time. The meeting between the President and the Prime Minister of India will be starting any time. We'll wait and watch what will be the outcome. But as we started this program and as we mentioned in the program earlier, what has happened in the domestic thing, which sure is bound to cast a shadow on that meeting. We'll wait and watch the outcome. Thanks to all my guests, Mohan Guruswamy, Mr. Parthasarathy, G. Balachandran, and Pramit Chaudhary, and Chidu Rajghatta, who joined us earlier. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue of Big Picture same time on Monday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.